Hello everyone. This is Hussein and I'm here to start which is possibly the 63rd episode, maybe this is 64th, not really sure. And I'm guessing that maybe very soon I should start calling these episodes and maybe even after that I'll have seasons, but maybe that's a discussion for another time. Let's move to the highlights today and I'm going to switch and start. The first one is from Get It Done. How confident are you about your goal commitment? When you're uncertain about your commitment, you can sustain your motivation by looking at the glass half full. What have you already achieved? When you're committed to a goal, the glass half empty will keep you going. Ask yourself what is left to be done. We have discussed a lot of highlights from Get It Done before, and a lot of different insights that point to how different actions increase our motivation depending on what we feel about the goal, our attachment to the goal, our engagement, and so on. So for example, in this particular case, when you're uncertain about your commitment, as in you're not really sure if this is something that you really want to do, you may be doing this because of various reasons. Somebody asked you to do it, and or you feel that you should do it, but your heart is not really in it, and that kind of thing. In those cases, you can sustain your motivation by looking at glass half full, as in what you've already completed, and that will keep you going. What you've already completed will kind of push you to keep getting closer to the finish line. And if your commitment is if your commitment is solid in a way, when you're committed to a goal, then you probably should look at what's left to be done. That is going to increase your motivation to do. So if you are feeling that, okay, no, this is something that I really really want to do, with you're really committed, then the missing actions that's left, that is what helps you move closer to the goal. So yeah, that's about it. Let's move on. Remote, not distant. The truth is, people have a hard time expressing disagreement. Leaders should reframe the meaning of silence to confirm whether or not there's alignment. In The Advantage, Patrick Lencioni recommends changing the meaning of silence to no, rather than assuming that people agree when they stay silent, infer that they don't. So this is true in many organizations, including mine at one point of time, where silence was meant to assume yes, and I can see where that's coming from. It's kind of removing the burden of response, as in the idea is that people feel a hesitation in responding. If they feel a mild yes, it's either a strong yes or a slight no, or a strong no. In that case, people will respond. But if it's slight yes, people will think that, okay, I don't want to bother everybody, I don't want to add my response to the pool, and so on. um, but I guess we learn that that's not what really happens. People, when they feel a slight no, they still feel afraid to speak up, and even if they feel no strongly, they may be afraid that, okay, that like the peer pressure effect kicks in, that, okay, everybody else is going to agree to this, I'm the only one who's going to disagree. So silence is not that simple. It just makes it easier on leaders to assume that silence means yes, that if nobody responds, that, okay, it just means that everybody is okay to go ahead. But yeah, from the inclusivity standpoint, once we understand the different dynamics at play over here, in different characteristics, different backgrounds of different people, it's we come to realize that silence doesn't mean yes. It probably doesn't even mean no, but it's safer. And if you want to express, if you want to encourage inclusivity, it is safer to assume that silence means no, and it means that, okay, we have to work harder um, towards generating that buy-in that's required. We'll move on. Kill it with fire. However, if they implemented a better process and still failed anyway, they would lose this mental lifeline they were hanging on to. The team doomed itself to failure because they were afraid of learning that the problem the whole time was them, not their process, not the organization's denial of resources, not the inexperienced manager. So, yeah, this is coming back to me slowly. So the author is talking about the refactoring or modernization of software and adopting better processes. And the idea is that, if the team implemented a better process and still failed anyway, it would mean that they failed in spite of the better process. Like um, uh, like the highlight says, the team doomed itself to failure because they were afraid of learning that the problem the whole time was them, the team, not the process or nothing else. So, in many cases, during a modernization effort, the team may kind of compromise by saying that, okay, no, I don't care about what process we follow. And there is of course more to the context, but I'm not really remembering that now. But this was it in the nutshell. Moving on, the earned life. At first glance, CEOs appear to be the ultimate generalists, but peel away the necessary but generalized leadership skills of clear communication, persuasion, and decision making, and you'll find that every good CEO has a very specific skill or core value that they regard as their OTG. And like I put in notes, OTG is one trick genius. One trick genius refers to a specialist of some kind that some like a particular strength of that individual. So this section of the this chapter in this chapter, the author is talking about being a generalist versus being a specialist. And uh, he also contrasts this with with the theory in range that generalists perform better. And the author is saying that, okay, in not in many cases, but things that appear to be like people who appear to be generalists, they're actually specialists. So it's a complicated thing to understand, and I don't think that the either author has kind of um, making a very simple point. It's not like a very straightforward point that, okay, generalists are better or specialists are better. Of course, it is contextual, but people don't really fall into the buckets of generalists or specialists anyway. So, like the author says over here, in this highlight, the CEOs may appear to be generalists, but they also have specialized skills, which is a given, I think, and I don't think so. The author of Range is going to disagree with that. So, uh, these two thought patterns are compatible. It's important to understand what generalization and specialization means in your own career. But yeah, they both have equal footholds in how you want to go about making your career decisions, or your lifestyle decisions even. Moving on, extreme ownership. Extreme ownership. Leaders must own everything in the world. There's no one else to blame. This is the kind of the central theme of the book. Of course, the it's the title, right? Extreme ownership. So anything that happens in the teams, anything that happens to their teams. Sorry, I don't know, like yeah, it's all a leader's responsibility, and there is no one else to blame. It's of course, the book goes into what happens in different scenarios, different cases. How do leaders handle these situations? Of course, that's what the whole book is about. How do you implement extreme ownership? But the point is that leaders must own everything in their world. Moving on, 7.5 lessons about the brain. Your brain recreates the past from memory by asking itself, the last time I encountered a similar situation, when my body was in a similar state and was preparing this particular action, what did I see next? What did I feel next? The answer becomes your experience. In other words, your brain combines information from outside and inside your head to produce everything you see, hear, smell, taste, and feel. So this section is talking about how brain really recreates memories. What we say are our experiences, are our memories. How brain recreates that. And in this theory, sorry, in this section, the author is explaining that what really happens in the brain is that the inputs that you get at different points of from all the different sources, all the different senses, uh, touch, hear, the author says, hear, smell, taste, and feel. From all of these different senses, the inputs that you get, they they are what brain remembers, and then the brain remembers what was the next action that you took after that. So it's not similar to how a computer stores a memory, that okay, it stores it like a perfect record. The brain stores it in terms of Okay, this was the input, and this was the output. This was the next series of actions that happened the last time. Again, like those actions can also be sensory inputs in its own turn. As in, you may be experiencing certain set of inputs right now, and the next action is also external to you, and you're experiencing that as well through your sensory inputs. What you're seeing, what you're hearing, and so on. And brain remembers that as well. So next time, when you feel the first set of inputs, the brain will associate that with the second set of inputs that it received earlier, and that's what is prediction. As in, like you predict something from your experience, right? That's how it works. The book, of course, goes into a lot more detail, so do read it. It's a very interesting read. But we'll move on to earned life. Compliance and accountability are two sides of the same coin. They are both burdens that we bear alone as individuals, one imposed on us by others, the other self imposed. Follow up introduces the coercive force of the outside world to the mix. So the author is talking about four different things, actually five different things eventually. So it starts with four and then adds a fifth item. And three of them are compliance, accountability, and follow up. These are what is required to live an earned life. So the author is making a note here that compliance and accountability are really the same thing. They're just like two sides of the same coin. So one is imposed on us, compliance that is imposed on us. Somebody else makes us comply. That is imposed on us. Whereas accountability is something that self-imposed. We impose on ourselves that we are accountable to something. And follow-up introduces the coercive force of the outside world to the mix, as in you're following up on your actions, or you have a follow-up on your actions. That's what this is talking about. We'll move on to remote not distant again. Research by Humo shows that people who don't feel their work contributes to the company's purpose are 6 times more likely to quit their jobs than their peers who do. Okay, basically saying that for an individual to feel that their work contributes to the company's purpose is very, very important, and 6 times as important, as not feeling. I guess that's about it. Let's move on. Get it done. Committed team members choose to invest more time, money, and effort when they feel they should compensate for others' lack of action. In this case, missing actions increase commitment. If your family left a mess in the kitchen, for example, you'd be more likely to clean it up than if the kitchen were in relatively good shape. You don't simply mimic your family members, you compensate for their lack of action. I think the example pretty much says it all. I don't feel I have anything else to add over here. Yeah, let's move on. Principles. It's a supplemental highlight. Having a process that ensures problems are brought to the surface and the root causes diagnosed assures that continual improvements occur. Again, I think it's self explanatory. I don't really have anything to add. In any case, I don't really have a context. It's not a highlight I made, it's a supplemental highlight. So I think we are at the end of our session, of our episode. I'll get used to saying episode going forward. So we are at the end of our episode today, and I think there was like some nice detailed discussion in the beginning, and then many of the highlights later were kind of self-explanatory. But yeah, either way we are done, and it's we're done for the week as well. With it being Friday. So have a good weekend, all of you. Bye.